Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. This is season 2, episode 16, in which I choose my top 5 favorite cards of a particular player. At the end of last week's video, I spun the wheel of names and it landed on Bob Lemon. For those of you who may not be familiar with Bob Lemon's career, Bob Lemon didn't want to be a pitcher. But thanks to the testimonials of those who faced him early on, he grudgingly became one of the game's best. If it hadn't been for baseball, Lemon said, I'd still be pumping gas back home in Long Beach. As a minor leaguer, he played the infield and outfield, once leading the Eastern League in runs and hits, but struggled at the major league level with the Cleveland Indians in 1941 and 1942. While serving in the military during World War II, Lemon pitched in service games and so impressed fellow big leaguers with his arm that they advised him to try pitching full-time. When Lemon reported to spring training with the Indians in 1946, his third base skills had deteriorated enough that he was switched to center field. His switch to the outfield was not a success, but while Lemon was languishing on the bench, Cleveland manager Lou Boudreau began hearing positive reports from big leaguers that had faced Lemon in the service, players such as Bill Dickey, Bertie Tebbetts, and Ted Williams. Boudreau decided to try Lemon on the mound. The experiment worked, and Lemon was soon part of a pitching staff that included such aces as Bob Feller, Early Wynn, and Mike Garcia. The right-handed Lemon, who would spend his entire 15-year big league career with the Indians, would go on to toss a no-hitter in 1948, win 20 games 7 times, and led the American League in complete games 5 times, innings pitched 4 times, wins 3 times, and strikeouts once. When the Indians won 111 games in 1954, Lemon won 23 of them. Always a good hitter, Lemon's career total of 37 homers is second on the all-time list for pitchers. You never know, Lemon said. If I pitched in the minor leagues, I might have come up with a sore arm. After his playing career came to an end, Lemon stayed in the game as a scout, managed in the minor leagues, coached in the major leagues, and served as a big league skipper with the Kansas City Royals, Chicago White Sox, and New York Yankees. In July of 1978, he took over for Billy Martin as manager of the Yankees and led them to a World Series title. Lemon was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1976. He passed away on January 11th, 2000. All right, to help me narrow down the choices of cards that I had to select my top 5 favorite, I went with the PSA Basic Set Registry Checklist. It's only 11 cards for his playing days run, and it includes his 1949 through 55 Bowman cards, his 1952 Topps card, and his 1956 through 58 Topps cards. Now, here's where I would love all of you to participate as well. In the description of this video, I'll have a link to the PSA Basic Set Registry Checklist for Bob Lemon, so you can check out all 11 cards in his playing days run. And from those 11 cards, would love to know in the comments which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. And beyond those 11 cards from his playing days run, if there's some other Bob Lemon cards that you really like, feel free to put them in the comments as well, and I'll have them as honorable mentions in next week's video. Now, before I get to my top 5 favorite Bob Lemon cards, last week's video was on Keith Hernandez, so I'm going to start off by going over the results of all of your comments from last week's video, letting me know which were your top 5 favorite Keith Hernandez cards, go over some honorable mentions, and then see how your top 5 matches up with my top 5. Then I'll get into my top 5 favorite Bob Lemon cards. Now, I don't have any of his playing days cards in my collection, but I do have 2 Bob Lemon cards. So I'm going to turn the camera around then and show those two cards off, and then we'll get to the Wheel of Names again, give it a spin, and see which player will be the focus for next week's video. So let's get started. All right, for Keith Hernandez, you had 16 cards to choose from his basic Topps set registry checklist, from his 1975 Topps rookie card to his 1990 Topps card. All right, there were 9 of you who replied in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite Keith Hernandez cards, and here are the top cards that were selected. Leading the way was his 1981 Topps card with 7 selections. Then both his 1977 and 85 Topps card had 5 selections. Then his 1989 Topps card had 4 selections. And finally, his 1975 Topps rookie card had 3 selections. Out of his 16 total cards, there were only 2 of his cards that did not receive any selections, his 1982 and 84 Topps cards. All right, as I mentioned, there were some honorable mentions. We had 6 of them, starting off with the 1975 SSPC checklist card with Lou Brock, then his 1975 Topps mini rookie card, his 1982 Donruss card, his 1982 Kmart, his 1988 score, and finally a custom card done by When Topps Had Balls in the 1975 Topps design. All right, from your top 5 most selected cards, how did they rank 1 through 5, and how did it compare to my top 5 favorite Keith Hernandez cards? Well, at number 5, you had, as well as I did, his 1977 Topps card. At number 4, you and I had his 1981 Topps card. Then this is where we start separating a little bit. At number 3, you had his 1989 Topps card, which I had as my second favorite. At number 2, you had his 1985 Topps card, which I had as my favorite Keith Hernandez card. And then at number 1, you had his 1975 Topps rookie card, which I did not have in my top 5. All right, let's get to Bob Lemon. Again, 11 cards in his basic set registry checklist, from 1949 through 55 Bowman cards, his 1952, and then it skips all the way to his 56 through 58 Topps cards. All right, at number 5, and this one, it was a choice between this card and his 1950 Bowman card, but I decided to go with his 54 Bowman card. I don't often select the 54 Bowman cards when I'm doing these top 5 favorite. Probably the least favorite of my the Bowman sets in my opinion, but love the image there and love the stadium in the background and the sky. So yeah, I went with his 54 Bowman. It just had a slight little edge over the 1950 Bowman card, even though I love the 1950 Bowman set. All right, at number 4, I went with his 1955 Bowman card again. Typically not a set that I choose a card of my, from my favorite player if they're in that set. Just love the image there of his, arms above his head in that posed, starting pitching stance, and then you have these stadium lights in the background, not the crowd or outfield, but those 2 sets of stadium lights, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, you can see the Cleveland in the uniform there. So his 1955 Bowman is my 4th favorite Bob Lemon card. All right, at number 3, I went with his 1952 Topps card, and I did it for 2 reasons. One, love the image there of Bob Lemon, but if you noticed in the other cards and the 2 following this one, and just knowing Bob Lemon in general, he's a right-handed pitcher. Well, in this pose, it almost looks like he's a lefty. You would think that if he, being a right-handed pitcher, they would have him sort of, reaching down with his pitching arm with the sort of the follow through, but instead it's his left, which would be holding the glove. So it's a little like juxtaposed, picture there. It's not a reverse negative or anything like that, but I just found that interesting. One, I love the picture of Bob Lemon in this, and of course the little marquee that the 52 top set is known for, and that Cleveland Indians logo. But yeah, it just struck me that he's posing as he would be a left-handed pitcher instead of a right-handed pitcher. All right, at number 2, I went with his 1957 Topps card. Nothing special about the image, although it is a nearly full body pose, which I believe none of his other cards show the entire, image of him. But love the stadium, the seats in the background there, and just the overall look. You get to the experience, the look of the Cleveland Indians uniform from that time period. So I think overall it's a really cool card of Bob Lemon. And at number 1, I went with his 1949 Bowman card. Nothing flashy about the 1949 Bowman set, but just like the Satchel Paige, you have that sort of, it's a light green or teal. I'm not sure exactly what color it is, but just love the background and the fact that the Cleveland Indians with the blue and red colors just make it pop. And the rest of his uniform as well. He's got a little smirk to him. Not sure what that's about there, but just the overall color of his 1949 Bowman card. And of course, he has the version here, at least this is the one listed. I don't think he has 2 versions in the 49 Bowman set, but he has the nameplate at the bottom in the 49 Bowman set. So that, in my opinion, is my favorite Bob Lemon card. All right, let's turn the camera around and I'll show off the 2 Bob Lemon cards that I have in my collection. All right, the 2 non-playing days Bob Lemon cards that I have in my collection are both manager cards, and they're from the late 70s. The first one is his 1978. As you can see, as player, it almost looks like the image that they used for his 1957 Topps card. And then there he is as a manager. So working on or nearly completing, I still need the Dave Parker now that he got elected last year, but as part of the Hall of Fame run that I have for the 1978 top set. And of course, what's cool about this, even though it's a manager card, it has his full career stats. You can check them out right there. Mentioned that he was the Kansas City Royals skipper back in 1970, and I believe there's a 71 Topps card of him as a manager of the Kansas City Royals. Then guided Royals through 72 AL campaign and was named AL Manager of the Year at Chicago in 1977. So again, there's his full stats, and of course at home, Long Beach, California, mentioned in my intro. There's his 78, and then the other one is his 79. This one pictured as the manager of the Yankees. So he led them to the World Series title in 78. Not sure if he lasted the entire year as manager in 79 or not. There's the team card, and of course for 79, instead of having the stats of Bob Lemon, it's the Yankees checklist, the team checklist card. So there you go, my 2 Bob Lemon cards in my collection. No playing days, but still cards of him featured on the front as a Hall of Famer. All right, let's get to the Wheel of Names, give it a spin, and see which player it selects. All right, 24 names remain on the Wheel of Names, so let's give it a spin. And next week's video is going to be on Billy Williams. All right, this will be a nice one. I think I may only have one card of Billy Williams in my collection. I think it's a League Leaders card, but still, will be fun to go through his playing days checklist and select my top 5 favorite Billy Williams cards. And a final reminder, in the comments, would love to know which are your top 5 favorite Bob Lemon cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.